Walked out and my black car was yellow. But did the paint rust through or something? And then I discovered you could wipe it off, which was that was encouraging. But I had no idea what it
driving
was.
along with clouds of yellow billowing off of them.
Yep.
Yeah. The first time I experienced that 3 years ago, it was mind-boggling because we got that stuff up here in Wisconsin, but not to the extent that you guys do by any means.
I don't remember it from Illinois at all, ever.
Really?
That doesn't mean it never happened because my memory is notoriously bad. Okay, we're live on YouTube. And
Yeah, I grew up in Asheville, and there's a lot of pollen up there, but it wasn't quite as bad as it is down here. And then my time in the Middle East, there was no wildlife to speak of that you had to worry about, so it just wasn't an issue.
And we're live on Facebook. So you guys who are tuned in already, the thousands of people that tune into the show, within the first 5 seconds, you see the countdown going. We're a minute away. Everybody tense up. Still haven't heard from Jen. She could pop in at any moment. You never know. So I've got your line for the under the music, Brendan.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just skip Jen if she's not here to do it, which
Sure.
I don't think she'll be.
What the hell is a Ikosahi drone? Sorry, I'm just reading through some of this stuff right now.
I have no idea. Time to do a show. 2, 1. And the music. From the studio in the bonus room above the garage on the north side of Cary, at the foot of Mount Belzoni, that's where we're sequestered. This is the Triangle Talk Show. Okay, I am Gary Pierce, and
From a converted attic apartment on the edge of downtown Cary, nowhere near any mountain that I've ever heard of, I'm Brendan Diesendorf, host of the Practical Operations Podcast.
that is the Practical Operations Podcast. You can spit it out there.
Yeah, sorry.
And as best we can tell, Jen is not going to be here on the show, but making a triumphant return and as a guest of the show is, and from the dearly departed, I'm screwing this up pretty bad, Sport Karate Podcast, there is Bobby McRaven. Welcome back, Bobby.
It's been a minute, and I think I was on the first episode, I think, wasn't I?
You were way early. I'm not sure. Yeah, you might have been in the first episode.
Yeah.
Well, I think the first episode was me just rambling to the camera. You were the first one where I had some actual co-hosts on there.
Yeah, and ever since then, I've been hiding in captivity.
Yep, you did a show called the Sport Karate Podcast for a long time.
Yep.
And then you made it too complicated and you gave it up.
Yep, I thought it was going to be a quick, easy podcast to do and bring on some guests, and I had some great guests. And then I decided I wanted to add video, and then I decided I want to add special production into it, and then I had no time to sleep, so I decided that sleep was probably a little bit more important.
How many episodes did you get up to?
I ended up doing 3 seasons, and I kind of broke the seasons down into like different categories. I'd try something different, and then I'd start a new season with that. And I think I ended up doing about 30 episodes total, somewhere around there, maybe 27 or so. But the majority of those were just audio, and maybe the last 10 or so were audio and video.
Okay, Brendan, there's a lesson in that for you.
Yeah, well, I have a huge amount of respect for the people who do video. but we're up to about 90 episodes, but we only do audio, and it still takes me a week to get everything edited and, all the ums and pops and people's air conditioners pulled back out of the audio feed. So take it slow.
Yeah. And I have learned, although I'm doing the video with all the stuff here, in the, that's not the shot I wanted. The stuff here in the studio above the bonus room. No, in the bonus room above the garage. I've learned how to do it KISS. No editing. Just send it out live to everybody. And when you're done, you're done. I trim up the website a little bit with some information, and then wait for the next week. A little bit of preparation, not very much real preparation.
Yeah, we find that the Skype audio is usually questionable in quality, or it changes in quality a lot. And so we all record our ends, and they send the files to me, and I merge them together and sync them up. And then I go through and clip it out together, because we all know I'm doing the editing afterwards. We're a little freer with pauses, and we'll fix it in post.
Yeah, it makes a tighter show. It makes a better show. There's no question about that. But
that's definitely ideal.
Yeah, but it's a lot of work.
It takes a lot of time.
Yeah. Most of the guys in the podcast group, the meetup group here in the Triangle, do an edited show. Most of them have sort of the NPR vibe to them, music and transitions and things. And I'm not the only one that does it this way. There are some other folks that just do roundtable discussions, but there are fewer of us that do it like this. I guess I better go with the title of the show, episode 87. It's a magic episode. It's May 3rd, 2020, and the title is Magic 8 Ball. And did you guys ever have Magic 8 Balls?
Oh, yeah.
Hells yeah.
So, Bobby, I was going to almost say you're probably too young for a Magic 8 Ball, but apparently not.
No, I mean, those were like the prizes at the game stores and stuff like that, where if you get enough tickets or whatever, you could buy the Magic 8 Ball,
Okay.
You ever crack one open?
No.
You didn't find...
The ink water inside is nasty.
You didn't find the icosahedron inside?
Oh, that's what it is.
All right.
It's a 20-sided die for all the D&D players out there.
So the reason for the title, it was inspired by an article in the News and Observer by Steve Weissman and Martha Quillen. And by the way, shout out to the News and Observer. They're hanging in there. It is not easy. They are asking for, even those of us who have subscribed, to kick in a little bit more money. A lot of articles are free online about the COVID thing. And they're asking those folks, if you're enjoying or at least finding valuable the COVID coverage that they're doing, and the putting articles up that are not behind their paywall, maybe think about subscribing. So I started subscribing to the News and Observer the minute I landed in North Carolina. And I would stack up the papers to 5 or 6 feet high, and then finally out to the recycle bin. Past few years, I've done just the digital version. Brendan, do you do newspapers?
Not paper. We had a News and Observer subscription when I lived in Raleigh 10 years ago. We probably had it for, 6 months or so before we decided it wasn't worth the dead trees piling up at the doorstep. We do try to subscribe with our money to various things, NPR. I keep on going back and forth to the New York Times. I feel like I should, but I don't. And a couple of others, just in terms of journalism is expensive to do it right, and it's important to do it right, and it costs money. And with Craigslist destroying the ad base for newspapers, they have been falling apart for the last 2 decades. So I'm hoping that we can find something better than begging for money online, but that's where we seem to be right now. Yeah,
I don't have any magic answers for him. Bobby, once again, I'm going to play the "you're too young" card.
And you're right on that. I have never had a newspaper subscription in my life, in my adult life. My parents used to get the newspaper back when I was a kid, and my grandparents still get the newspaper. But I can get all that information online. If I chose to read the information online, I can get it all for free online. I feel like. Yeah,
and that's the way I'm consuming it now. All of anything that's fairly recent, I'll pull off the News and Observer website, and not wait until because I'm like a week behind in reading the PDFs that I download. That's a replica of the paper that they would print. So if I want to find out what's going on, I'll look there online. I also
that's how they do it. They create a PDF of like an actual newspaper-ish type looking thing, and then they put it on their website.
Yeah, exactly. Their website is just a website. I mean, you look at stories in a linear fashion, just like you'd see in any other website. And I think that's the way they would prefer that you do it. I don't know how many more years the actual Dead Tree version has to go. They've stopped printing a Saturday paper.
Have they really?
Yeah. So there's no print edition at all on Saturday, but they still make the PDF version. So somebody still does all the makeup and and organizing, and the story starts on page 1, and you get 3 paragraphs on page 1, and then the rest of it finishes on page 8. They still do all that, but they don't print it on Saturday. And I'm going to guess that day by day the print part is just going to go away. And then they'll stop bothering with the PDF version and just be a website. But too much of their audience is still old fogies like me that want to see the Dead Tree version, and don't have a good handle on the technology, or just prefer the way things used to be.
Yeah, unfortunately, running a printing press is expensive, and having people distribute and all that is expensive. And the advertising base is no longer there. People won't pay, per word for classifieds and personals. So that's it's a losing market right now, unfortunately.
Yeah. And they I mean like maybe 5 or 10 years ago, put in a brand new printing press so they could print more color and all kinds of stuff. And I'm sure that they're slapping themselves. Why didn't we know? I hope they could make it.
They knew.
I don't think the TV stations have the reporting depth, and the News and Observer doesn't have the reporting depth that they used to have either. They've fired hundreds of reporters, but they still have more reporting depth than the TV stations do. Radio stations have mostly given up. So there really still isn't a replacement for them for local and primarily, I guess, political reporting. Really digging into what's going on at the city, at the state level. So I don't know. I'll keep going with them as long as they're out there for me to it's worth that. And I also subscribe digitally to the Washington Post. It was a coin flip. Was it going to be the Post or the Times for a national paper? And they both had specials going half price or whatever. And now I think their specials are deeper than that. But I picked the Post, and their national reporting is pretty good. And I think both them and the Times financially are doing okay. So,
how much does it cost to get the newspaper through the Observer?
My digital price is $100 a year. And the Post, I think, was about another 100, might be 150. So that's fairly expensive. On a daily basis, it's not that big a deal. But, for those of us that remember getting newspapers for 25 cents from the machine, like I did for most of my adult life, it was awful when it went to 50 cents. I kind of remember that back in Chicago. I'm a Tribune guy back in Chicago. I like reading Mike Royko. And my very first paid job doing anything was delivering papers. Afternoon newspaper route, delivering the Chicago Sun-Times and the Chicago American. And
the New York Times website now lists their deep discount price as $1 a week. So $50 a year gets you unlimited access to the Times
for a year.
Holy cow!
Yeah, for a year. I think that was the deal. The first year that I got the Post was $50. So okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to see how much it costs for our local newspaper here, and it's not telling me anything else.
We tried to figure out what it would cost to for the Charlotte Observer for my folks, my in-laws that are still in the Dead Tree generation. They're in their upper 80s and low 90s, and don't have a handle on the technology for doing things online like that. And it's in hundreds and hundreds of dollars, way more expensive to get the print edition.
So yeah, the print edition for us, holy cow, is $10 every 2 months. That doesn't seem right, does it?
Trying to do the math in my head.
So what, $60 a year?
$60, yeah.
So that's not too bad. That is what, in Eau Claire?
That's only local.
Yeah. Are they still printing every day?
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty
Every
good for a
day.
town that size.
I think our population is probably 50,000 right now.
You broke up a little bit. How many 100,000?
About 100,000. It's 50,000, I think, right now.
Oh, okay, 50,000. So, yeah. So not as big as any of the towns here that have a newspaper. I guess Chapel Hill doesn't have a daily of their own. I'm not sure who they.
I don't know.
Because I know the Durham Herald, News and Observer, and Indie Week is the Independent. I've not heard anybody talk about a Chapel Hill. Jen, where are you? We need you. She's too young too. She wouldn't have any idea. So the Magic 8 Ball. We'll talk about the story in a minute, but I need to talk about the 8 Ball for a little bit because I had to look it up. I wanted to know what I remember them from my youth, which puts them back in the 1920s. The thing inside that comes up with those messages is a 20-sided object, so there are 20 answers, and that thing is called an icosahedron. So something that I learned.
That's the name of the dice, or the material that the dice is floating in?
The geometric solid.
Yeah, the 20-sided dice thing. And I never took one apart, but Brendan, you have, right?
Yeah.
And you say it's nasty?
Well, just the liquid in there is dyed with some kind of really, really staining. Just the dye that they use in it stays in your hands, it stays in the sink, it stays in your clothes, it doesn't ever come out. I remember as a kid we broke one open and it was a mess, and it was very obvious where it had been for a while.
Is it watery or is it more gelatinous?
It's more like ink than just water, because they want it to be. They want it thick enough and dark enough so you don't see the other faces when one comes to the surface. So I mean, it's definitely a liquid, but it is very, very saturated with the ink.
Okay, but it's not like oil, not thick.
No, it was
thin
it was
like
a regular viscosity like water.
Okay, do you have the answers memorized?
No, I don't. But
okay, the answers are, as I see it, yes. Ask again later. Better not tell you now. Cannot predict now. Concentrate and ask again. Don't count on it. It is certain. It is decidedly so. Most likely. My reply is no. My sources say no. Outlook not so good. Outlook good. Reply hazy, try again. Signs point to yes. Very doubtful. Without a doubt. Yes. Just plain old yes. They don't have a plain old no. Just plain old yes. Yes, definitely. And you may rely on it. I don't think I had ever come to the point where I knew what they all were. Even not necessarily memorized, but just was not surprised that something came up I'd never seen before.
Yeah.
And as you can hear from that list, a lot of them are inconclusive, I guess is the right phrase for it.
Yeah.
There's a couple of yeses and nos, but the rest of them are kind of murky guesses towards one side or the other.
Yeah. It was fun. Yeah. Ouija board type fun, I guess. I think I grew out of it really quick. I probably had one. No idea where it ended up. The reason for bringing that up at all and making it the official show title here, the Magic 8 Ball, which I put a little COVID molecule inside the 8 Ball.
That's nice.
Using my vast artistic skills with GIMP So
Hey
there.
man, I love GIMP. I used that thing for years.
So Brendan's a big open source guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I like GIMP. I like all those audio and video manipulation tools that you can.
Yeah.
So what do you use for editing for your podcast? You use like Audacity then?
I did for a long time. I finally succumbed and purchased a copy of Logic, though.
Yeah.
It is much more polished and works a lot better.
yeah,
Which I'm ashamed to say, but it works.
Audacity's got some serious limitations.
Yeah.
Does Logic work on Linux?
No, it is. It's an Apple thing. It runs on the Mac, and that's pretty much it. But the workflow is so much easier. It is so much more streamlined. It gets out of my way, so it cuts my editing time in half.
Are you an Apple guy then?
Yeah, and I have been since I was little, since I was like 5.
Yeah, if we ever meet in person, there'll be sparks and things. Well, if the sparks can happen across 6 feet, because I'm total Windows guy.
Yeah, I'm a Windows guy also, so
Whatever gets your job done, whatever tool works for you, and I'm not one of the zealots anymore. I used to be, but I got over it.
So do you have an iPhone then too?
Oh yeah. I've got all kinds of stuff laying around here. I've got 5 or 6 computers within arm's reach of where I'm sitting right now. Most of them are Macs, and other ones are Raspberry Pis and other Linux machines. So,
Yeah. My phone is a Google Pixel, the pure Android Google experience.
Oh my. Okay, so as long as we're talking about phones here, I bought a phone online for a Black Friday special. I don't know if you guys follow Android Authority, the podcast, but I've been listening to that for years. And they did an episode about this specific phone that I bought, and I got it on sale for 50% off. Got the phone, battery lasted for literally 5 days before I had to charge it. Just a fantastic phone, 128 gigabytes worth of internal storage with expandable SD. And I just absolutely loved it. And then pretty soon the screen wouldn't turn on. So I sent it back and they sent me a new one. And I've had 3 of them since that have all broken. And I am just so absolutely disappointed in, I don't know if it's the Android build or if it's the phone itself. I haven't had any problems with the Android phone itself other than this last one where the back, it doesn't have a removable battery. And the back started to separate from the case. But the other 2, I mean, they just, I don't know, the screens just wouldn't turn on anymore. So I was extremely disappointed in those.
yeah, my biggest problem with the phones is the removal of the headphone jack. But
The lack of one.
yeah, the removal of it. But iPhones last me 3 or 4 years at this point each. I don't buy a phone every year. I don't buy a phone every other year anymore. When they were subsidized by the carriers, I'd pick up a phone every other year. But yeah, my big problem is the 1/8-inch jack is gone.
Yeah.
And so you can buy a $9 adapter,
Yeah, that's the Apple way.
but then you can't plug it into power when you have it in your headphones. It's like, guys, that is the truly the one thing about the design that makes me angry.
Yeah.
Do you buy your phones outright or do you pay them? Yeah.
We buy them outright, rather than trying to figure out whose payment plan comes up when. And no, just pay for the stupid thing, and then because you paid for it, you feel more. When you're paying $1,000 for a piece of electronics, you take better care of it rather than you're paying a subscription plan for it, and it makes you feel every 3 or 4 years you buy a phone. That's fine. That works out.
So Bobby, what was that phone that you had?
It was called a NUU, NUU. I don't remember the exact model, but man, these guys were raving about it on Android Authority, and I just thought that I got the deal of the century. And I mean, it was a fantastic phone. It was fast, lots of storage. I had all of my music from my computer onto my phone. And I mean, it worked great until it didn't, and then I had no phone.
Yeah, I think my only complaint about this is the Pixel 3a XL, is that the maximum memory it's got is 64 gigabytes, which is easy to fill up with pictures and music.
Yeah,
not to mention video. So,
what is your main source of storage there? Like, is it mainly pictures and videos, or is it music, or what?
Music. I got probably 30 gigabytes of music on it. So I don't have
So
to
you
be
download the
streaming.
music and you put it on there?
Yeah, so you don't have to stream. I've got Google's music service, but I don't want to be streaming it all the time because I'm also on Google Fi, which means I pay $1 for every 100 megabytes and don't want to be using those if I don't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got on the AT&T unlimited plan when I got my first iPhone 10 whatever years ago it was, and I stayed on that plan forever until they finally convinced me to move over to a different unlimited plan. But with that, I just don't worry about it. I pay whatever it is a month for the family plan for Apple Music, so everybody in the family, the kids, my wife, myself, my mother-in-law, we all can just play music whenever we want. And we pay the $5 a month for iCloud storage, so the pictures get uploaded and whatever, and I just don't ever think about it anymore. And that's honestly, Apple should just do that by default because it relieves so much mental burden from having these things, and they are expensive enough as it is. But I'm not running a business like that, so
Yeah.
Yeah, when you pay all of that money for stuff like that, it's more of just like a mental thing. Like I pay for unlimited, talk, text, data, or whatever, and it costs me an arm and a leg, but I don't got to worry about anything. Whereas if I was paying a little bit less and only using 1 gigabyte of data compared to 8, at least I don't got to sit there and worry about it every day.
A couple of jobs ago, I was commuting to work. I was doing the bike and the bus pattern, and the bus ride was about 35 minutes each direction. And I had unlimited data, and I had Netflix on my phone, and I just watched TV. And I was doing like 12, 15 gigs a month, easy, every month.
The buses have Wi-Fi on them now, I think. Some of them.
Yeah, but having my phone meant I never had to deal with anybody else's outages or whatever. So it was really convenient.
And you can download a lot of Netflix shows onto the phone, although with 64
so you can watch
gigabytes.
them offline.
Yeah,
but like 6 years ago, that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
This was several jobs ago. But it was really convenient to be on the bus and just like you put the headphones in and just watch TV or watch a movie.
So I need to be a little more careful with how much I'm going to spend on these things. So my talk and text bill is $20 a month. And then on top of that is however much data I'm going to use. So if I can keep myself down to 500 megabytes, my bill is $25.
Nice.
That's an unheard of phone bill these days.
Yeah, we have 3 unlimited data plans on the plan, and we have the home internet, the AT&T fiber to the home, and I'm not going to say how much it is, but it's a lot more than $25 a month.
Yeah.
But we never have to worry about it.
For the longest time when I was in North Carolina the place that I was staying at didn't have, it was a straight up ghetto. They didn't have any internet, anything above like 20 or 5 megabytes up. And so I finally was like, all right, I can't do this. I need to get Charter or Spectrum. They came out, they installed it, and my bill was like $85-$95 a month. And I was like, no, this is not happening. For the extremely low speeds that I was getting, I wasn't going to do it. So I caved in, and that's the first time that I did the unlimited data on my phone, and I did a hotspot. And I just hotspot everything from my phone to my house and everything that I needed to do for whether it was my podcast or anything like that. It was sufficient. But I remember looking at my data usage on my phone one month, and it was almost 250 gigabytes worth of data that I was going through. And that's when they started to really throttle down my speed after that.
I'm surprised that they let you get that far.
And I think we pay $70 a month for our gigabit internet plan, and so it's gigabit synchronous. It's gigabit up, gigabit down, and it is magical. Never having to worry about who's watching TV and who's on a video call and who's doing. No, we have more bandwidth than we can use.
Yeah. Now, are you through Google doing that or AT&T?
AT&T.
Okay.
My brother has the option of both at his house, which is really kind of ridiculous. That he has 2 gigabit fiber services to his house, or he can have 2.
Yeah, I've got Google. Fiber here, gigabit, and it's also $70 a month. How could they both be exactly the same? Collusion. So the reason we're talking about the Magic 8-ball thing is part of our neighborhood COVID coverage. And looking in the News and Observer, there was a story last week about getting into this recovery thing and how the state is going to handle getting into reopening things. And so I pulled a little bit of stuff out of that article, which is what brought up the Magic 8-Ball thing. And Brendan, if you would go through a few of those paragraphs, and we'll see where North Carolina is.
Thursday's briefing with Governor Roy Cooper and State Department of Health and Human Resources Secretary Mandy Cohen was a bit like the old game of Magic 8-Ball, as the two considered the likelihood of a May 9th phased reopening of North Carolina. Outlook good. Signs point to yes, they seemed to say after looking over one chart of metrics. And then, as shaking the 8-ball and setting another chart, they came back with, cannot predict now, will reply hazy, try again. While the state seems unlikely to hit every milestone the governor laid out last week in his plan to start lifting restrictions that have been in place since March 28th through March 28th to reduce the spread of COVID-19, Cooper and Cohen said two important indicators, the number of tests conducted and the percentage of tests that are positive, are encouraging. Citing guidance from President Donald Trump, state health officials are monitoring 4 trends related to the virus's spread and severity, while also considering testing capacity as part of their decision-making process. We remain hopeful that the trends will be stable enough to move us into phase 1 next week, Cooper said during the online news conference. While I would say the overall picture is mixed, Cohen said, we remain hopeful. We're going to continue to watch this closely.
Yeah, the Cohen is Mandy Cohen. She's the woman that you see if you watch any of the press conferences. She's becoming a star. She's our local Anthony Fauci here.
I'm enjoying is not the right word for it, but I am watching with amusement the waffling and the ways people are trying to phrase stuff to not commit when asked direct questions about things. And I think that's part of the Magic 8-Ball stuff is nobody wants to go on record saying this is going to happen or this is not going to happen. But you also you can't tell either side either answer. So you have to find ways to walk that line carefully.
They should just say, we don't know for sure.
Yeah.
Because that's the case. They don't.
I do like reading the governor's statements because he's very much in the camp of when we hit the right numbers, we will move from this phase to this phase. I'm not saying when that's going to happen. I'm not going to say whatever because we don't know. But when we reach the milestones, it triggers the next phase, and then we will reassess from there.
No. As they said in the article, signs point to yes, or outlook hazy, try again. So
these data sets are all public. So in theory, you could go and pull their rubric for when we're doing these things and then go to the data set and look at how we're doing. And you know before the press conference which way it's happening, assuming that they follow their stated goals and guidelines. Yeah,
I've got to look at at all the charts you're looking at. They'll pull them up a little bit later on. Bobby, you are up in Wisconsin, and what is it? And in a medium small town up there, what is it like up there? What's your experience going out and about?
Well, I'm still an essential worker, so I've been working just limited hours at a fast food place. I'm one of the managers, so I'm, still have to be there Monday through Friday, and instead of working my, usual hours, it's just a little bit less. But, when this whole thing first started, everybody was worried for their jobs. Everybody. And then we switched to closing our lobby and only doing drive-through, which, everybody is doing right now. And, our numbers kind of plateaued right there, right around like the 3/4-ish mark of what we would usually make if our lobby was open and this pandemic wasn't happening. So we were pretty happy with that. And then they started to dip way down to where it was about half. And then after that, once the stimulus checks started to go out, we were hit really hard, and we're still getting hit really hard to the point where some of the stores that we have in this area it's like our lobby is open and it's a normal day and nobody is aware of the pandemic that's going on. And, some of the stores are even making more money just through their drive-through than when their drive-through and their lobby was open. And it's ridiculous. But one thing that I've noticed is that the clientele has completely changed since we've closed the lobbies, and everybody's kind of getting cooped up and people need to get out. And it's a lot of elderly people that are coming through the drive-through. getting food, and it's a lot of families that are coming through the drive-through to get food, and not so much the essential workers. I mean, you'll get the nurse or the doctor or something that comes through every once in a while, but I would say that the majority of the people when I am working the drive-through window that I see are elderly people. And, I don't want to say anything mean, but, those are the people that are at the highest risk. And, we can only do so much to prevent it. But, if you're going to come in and you're going to lick your fingers to grab your cash to hand to me and then I hand you your food while this whole pandemic is going on, like, I think you guys kind of get what I'm trying to get at here, but
we've been wary of doing drive-through stuff just for exactly those reasons. We're trying to limit our exposure, and so when we do drive-through, we sanitize things and we try to we hand the debit card over with a Lysol wipe kind of thing to make sure that we're not part of that risk pattern. But we also know that a lot of other folks aren't taking this to the same level of seriousness that we are, and so we have to protect ourselves that way.
And that's the thing, like, you have to protect yourself from everybody else that isn't thinking the way that you are. Like, when I hand people money or something like that, it's, I'm at the mercy of literally every single person that hands me something in that drive-thru, which some days is 200, 300, 400 people. And every single person is a different individual that's taking this whole pandemic a little bit differently. And, I'm at the mercy of however they think that this pandemic is being handled in their eyes. And, luckily I haven't had any symptoms. I think it's only a matter of time, honestly, but, it's shitty and it really sucks.
Are you wearing gloves?
Yeah. I'm supposed to say yes.
Sometimes
we're supposed to hand everything out on trays. We're supposed to collect either the card or the cash and the change on trays, hand the food out on separate trays as well as the drinks. But if anybody has ever worked fast food that's listening, or if any of you guys have, the whole goal is speed of service. You have to get the food out and you have to take the orders as fast as possible, and that's pretty much what you're based off of, for the whole day. How was the speed of service for today? And when you add in, okay, I now have to put on gloves every 10 minutes and I have to wash my hands every 10 minutes. And then I also have to make sure that all of my trays are clean, and I have to have trays on this little countertop in front of the point of sale systems that I'm punching in. And then I have to put the drinks on top of that stuff. I mean, all of that stuff just adds, an extra 10 seconds here, an extra 20 seconds there. And it's, it's a losing battle because the company wants you to have extremely high speed of service. But at the same time, it's like you have to go through all of these extra steps. And that's the biggest, kind of problem that I have when I'm working is we need to make sure that we do this as fast as possible for the speed of service and that the food's coming out correctly and that it's fresh and, all that regular stuff that we always try to do. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we're taking the right steps to prevent, COVID as much as we possibly can as well.
Is your dining room open?
No. All of the stores that I work for in this area, we have all closed our dining rooms. I think only Dairy Queen is the only store as far as fast food goes in our area that still has their lobby open for takeout.
Well, my wife and I were talking about this the other day, that even when they do open dining rooms for restaurants and fast food organizations and movie theaters and whatever, when are we going to feel comfortable going back and sitting shoulder to shoulder in a movie theater it's going to be a while, even if the government magically said, okay, it's safe. Like we're going to force through, the reopening of the economy, and we're going to make everything good again. A lot of people aren't going to go. They're going to stay on the drive-thrus. They're going to stay on these distancing measures and precautions. And it's going to be interesting to watch how this ripples through the next probably 18 months worth of
Do you
everything.
think that people are going to stay home? You don't think that they're going to go out, the government says it's safe, and everybody's just going to mass flock to all of these different stores?
Well, I think that, for example, movie theaters aren't going to get enough people in seats to sustain profitability and pay the rent on their buildings. I just don't see them surviving, honestly. I don't know about food. Food's a different story, but it'll be a while before I'm comfortable going into a crowded restaurant.
Yeah, movie theaters will probably have to open with a third, half, 2/3 of the seats blocked off, and they may decide not to do it. I've seen stories where many of the restaurant owners have said if they can't have their whole dining room filled economically, it doesn't make any sense to open. And they weren't doing that to say, let us fill the dining room. They were doing that to say, let us not open. And
restaurants are notoriously low margin business. That if you can't turn over enough tables, you can't make a profit. There's no way to pay your rent and food costs and everybody else. Your dishwashers are always going to get paid whatever they're not on. Oh, we did 30% less business tonight, so you get 30% less pay. You just pay your dishwashers, or you're supposed to.
Well, and that's one of the problems that we had when all of this first started to happen was, all right, we have all of, let's say we have 10 employees and we can only really sustainably have 5 for the whole day. And I'm just making these numbers up. So we need to pick those 5 who are going to be there. And, the dishwashers, they're not high on the list. And the people that can only work during, breakfast, those people are not going to be on the list. It's the people who can multitask. It's the best multitasking employees. It's the people who know breakfast and lunch. And it's the people who know how to make sandwiches and take orders.
And the ones who can say, I can do 10-hour shifts, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays or whatever, so you can get them in for the whole day and not have to hand off in the middle of a shift.
Exactly. So then that in return, these people that aren't working more than one day a week, they're saying, well, I can go somewhere else and work. And so, by the time this is all done and we open up the lobby and the government says that, we're all free and clear of everything that's going to happen, everybody flock to everywhere you want to go. I mean, who knows how many employees these places are actually going to have because of the whole virus span where you can't have all the employees working and they got fed up and quit.
So I don't know the economics of your business, but how long does it, if you were given, the leeway to hire 3 more people tomorrow, how long would it take to fill 3 more positions? And get not just like getting people to in the door to be paid, but in terms of like having them be useful contributors to the team.
Training and stuff.
So I was talking to Gary about this earlier, and that's one of the reasons why I stopped doing the podcast is because I try to perfect everything that I do, and that's one of my biggest downfalls. I think that for somebody, I'll use myself for an example. I had no food experience whatsoever coming into the place that I'm working at now, and I feel that I'm still learning and that I'm still not great at my job, but I'm good at my job. So, I mean, I can't accurately answer that question, I don't think, just because I am a perfection Nazi. But, to get somebody on the sandwich board in the back making sandwiches correctly, I would say that it would probably take them 2 weeks before I would feel comfortable saying, all right, you are going to be here during lunch and, it's going to be you and one other person in the back. And I would feel, halfway comfortable with them being back there with one other person.
Okay. So it's not a huge ramp up time, but it's also not immediate. So it'll take, especially once you decide to open up the dining room or once you start getting more traffic in those senses, it will take a while to get your staff back up to the point where you can handle the load.
Yes, but at the same time, there's other factors in there, like the people that are working consistently, like Monday through Friday or 5 days a week, let's just say, those are the people that are the best at their jobs in those stores. So, the people that aren't the greatest, those guys are gone. But, it's not that big of an impact once we open our lobby and we have all of these people come in where we still have our key players working. We just maybe need like 1 or 2 other people to, just put stuff in the fryer or put stuff in the grill or something like that. But to get back to the point where we were before the whole pandemic, where we had, all right, this person can't come in. This is our next option to, have our key player in the back. That's going to take some time, I really think. And then you also have the other fact that you have these different hours that we're open now compared to what we were open. So the whole time shift where, all right, I was working 5 a.m. to, let's say, 11 a.m. now is, all right, I'm starting at 8 a.m. and I'm working until 2 p.m. So that morning person that was working morning before the whole virus happened is now having to learn all of the lunch menu and do all of that. Once we switch back to our regular hours, all of that stuff is going to be completely useless to them because they're going to go right back to where they were. Or do we keep them at where they are right now, doing breakfast and that lunch rush, and we just hire somebody completely different to handle all the breakfast stuff? So there's a lot of different factors in there that not the store managers are going to have to deal with, I think, but the overseeing company that owns all of these different chains are going to have to deal with, as far as hiring and what type of individuals are you going to be looking to hire? Are you going to be hiring breakfast people? Are you going to be hiring somebody that wants full-time? Are you going to hire somebody that wants part-time? So the limitations are just endless on what's going to happen here once lobbies open up.
So one of the recovery things is paying people who are on unemployment their regular unemployment plus an extra $600 a week. And the complaint about that was that makes the minimum wage people, gives them an incentive to stay on unemployment because that extra 600 boosts them above what they would make if they were working full time. Are you seeing that, Bobby, among the folks that you have working for you and that environment? Are you hearing about that?
No. I don't know what I've never dealt with unemployment at all until this whole thing happened. And I'm still not able to get through I actually just pulled up the unemployment website here on my computer. I'm still waiting for my unemployment stuff to come through because I'm working half the hours that I was before this whole thing happened, and I qualify for it. But, as far as unemployment goes, I have no knowledge about anything other than I got to keep track of my hours and give it to the state of Wisconsin. And, for the last 2 or 3 weeks, I haven't been able to do that because, they're just so backed up. So I'm dealing with my paycheck with my half hours, and that's kind of what I'm stuck with right now.
I have a friend in Nashville who has been out of work now for like 6 weeks, and she still hasn't been able to get the unemployment line to respond at all to her. When she calls, it's busy. When she's not getting any traction. And she's out of work, and she's immune compromised to begin with, so she's extra wary about going out and doing things. But it's what do you do? You're kind of stuck, and she doesn't have a lot of options. So,
yep. I've got a friend who is primarily employment is owning a tattoo business, and of course they're all shut down. She had a double whammy in that when you own your own business or you're an independent person, you can't ever apply for unemployment because you could declare yourself unemployed at any time and the state does not trust you to not just do that.
Yeah.
So when all the time that I was freelance and incorporated as a single person, I would be paying into the unemployment system, but I could never take advantage of it, even if all my business dried up. So that felt unfair. It wasn't very much money. It was literally a few dollars a year, so it wasn't that big a deal. Part of the stimulus is that people who are self-employed and find that their work has been dried up or taken away from them can file for unemployment. And after 5 weeks, she received her first check. So there's hope out there, but it's very hard if you haven't got through yet.
And you know what the worst part about it is like after I filled out all the paperwork online and I got the mail in the letter saying, you're eligible, or we're going to pay you X amount of thousands of dollars. It was literally thousands of dollars. And I looked at it and I was like, this is probably more than I would actually make if I was working full time. And I felt bad about it. But, at the same time, it's like, okay, well, that's the formula that the government has, and, we're just going to roll with it. I feel like I'm responsible enough to, spend the money wisely in my community and give it back to the small business owners or what have you. And then, 3 weeks down the road, I'm still waiting for, $1, not thousands of dollars, just $1.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, it's rough.
You did get your $1,200 stimulus check, right?
Yep, I got that I think 2 weeks ago. And I'm fortunate enough to still have my SunTrust Bank from North Carolina. And those guys seem to be doing a pretty good job about handling all of that stuff. And they were just recently bought out by somebody, I don't know who. But, I called them up one day, and right on their automated message, as soon as you call, they were talking about the stimulus check and coronavirus unemployment and stuff like that. So that was pretty beneficial to me, just to get information about anything that I really needed at that point.
Yep. Go ahead, Brendan.
We got our stimulus check a couple weeks ago as well, but then we got letters in the mail, like it's end of last week, from the IRS saying your stimulus check is on the way. It's like, yeah, we've already, and we didn't even cash it. It was direct deposit into our account. We've already spent it effectively. So sure, thanks.
Now, I've got a feeling I understand why that is going on. I've got this one that came for my stepmom. I've got power of attorney for her. She's in a retirement home and is not able to handle her own stuff. My wife and I won't get a stimulus check. We made too much money. I didn't make it. She made it. Just, I'm poor as a church mouse. She's doing pretty well. She is complaining a little bit that she's not going to get a stimulus check, but the cutoff is $199,000. That's about what she made last year. Well, between the two of us filing jointly. So,
and honestly, I got a stimulus check, but I don't think that I needed it. I think they should have given more money out to people making less than I do.
So hers was, my stepmom's was direct deposited, but we also got this letter, which comes from the White House and is signed by Donald Trump. So you can sort of get the idea what this is all about. Now, he does give credit to Congress and talks about how bipartisan it was. And I guess everybody's seen this because you've got one. But he wants to make sure that his name is there and, not taking total credit for it, but it is his name that is on the letter. So that's, I guess, the political side of how this works. We knew this was going to happen. I didn't know the letter was going to happen. I knew he was trying to get his name on the physical checks, and they wouldn't let him sign the physical checks, but they got his name on there in the memo part.
Well, I will say that there is one thing about Donald Trump that I like. His signature. He has a very distinguished, it's a very artistic, the signature itself is interesting. But that's about it.
I'll put that back up. For those of you that are watching, I'll put that back up on the screen. And I think everybody's pretty much seen it.
It's a pretty stylized, it's very recognizable. I like it.
Yeah, I have discovered, and much to my delight, that for most of my life I tried to craft a legible signature. And these days I'll do that when I'm signing an official document like a driver's license or whatever. I discovered your signature on a Visa receipt or whatever can be just a little fast scrawl. An X would probably do just fine. So
yeah, for me, the worst. I lived overseas. I was working for a university in the UAE for a while, and the bank there really wanted your signature to match, but I didn't realize that. And so you set up your account the first day, and you sign the documents, and then you go back a year later to do something, and you your signatures don't match. And I'm like, what? No, your signature doesn't match. I'm like, well, can I see the old one? Oh yeah, here it is. And so they printed it out for me so I could have it in front of me, so I could sit there with them watching me as I practiced my signature.
Because you forged your own signature.
It's like, doesn't this defeat the purpose?
Yeah.
Whatever.
So we can give Donald Trump credit for one thing, which is to have a nice signature. And I think that the list begins and ends up pretty much approximately there.
At least for me, it does.
Yeah. I don't know about you, Bobby. Are you a Trumpista?
I told you guys from the beginning, as far as politics go, my experience level is a 0.5 point out of 10. So
yeah.
Sure.
Have you paid any attention to the news about what's going on with your governor and the protesters?
Well, I have a little bit of experience with that because it is going on here, which is extremely surprising to me because that stuff has never happened here. As far as I've lived here, and I've lived here for my entire life, with the exception of the 3 years that I lived down there in the beautiful state of North Carolina. But I remember I messaged you. I don't know why I always message you at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. These things just pop into my head, and I'm like, God, I got to text Gary.
And you're surprised I answer then too.
Yeah, I am surprised.
And I always tell you I'm about to go to bed.
I'll respond to you tomorrow, and then I don't get a response until 2 days later. But you do respond, to give you credit there. But yeah, I heard about the election that happened here. I don't know exactly if it was people were allowed to go to the election or they weren't allowed to go to the election, and that pretty much the rest of the country was the exact opposite. Is that kind of the understanding that you have? Or
yes, your governor tried to postpone the primary in Wisconsin, and the legislature and the courts would not let her do that. So your election carried on right in the middle of the pandemic, with a lot of precincts not open, like in Milwaukee, where they typically would have, 180 precincts open. They had 5. And
okay, so can we just stop right there, because when I have zero experience with this. What the hell is a precinct?
It's the place where you go physically vote, and it's the geographic
like the voting booths.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
the precinct. Place. Yeah, the precinct is the geographic area that describes the pretty much the smallest political unit. I live in a precinct that'll have about 1,000 people in it, and we have a polling place over by a school. So, okay. So that's the precinct, and then very close to me there'll be another precinct with another place where they go vote. Yeah, actually in Milwaukee,
so with less of those open means that more people have to go to those individual, handful that are open, which
crowds more and more people together.
Okay.
Or they just can't vote, and then it's not as representative. There's no good answer to any of this. My big worry, honestly, is that Trump is going to say we're just not having elections this year. We'll postpone elections until next year, and he'll be president for longer without any kind of reasonable process.
Yeah, there's no constitutional basis for him doing that, but there's been no constitutional basis or legal basis for a lot of things he's done. And he just does them and says, okay, if you don't like that, sue me. So we'll see.
So what was the rest of the country doing while we did our thing up here? They delayed them?
Yeah, postponed their primaries.
Until when?
None of them have happened yet. They're postponed into June, July.
Okay.
The Democratic convention was going to be in July, and they moved that to late August. The Republican convention is still in early August.
One of those is going to be here in Milwaukee, right?
Yeah, the Democratic convention in Milwaukee and the Republican convention in Charlotte. So we got the right 2 states represented here on this podcast.
There we go.
And we'll see if either of those happen in real life, or if they end up as some kind of a strange online thing.
So I saw in the notes here about Charlotte, about that Netflix show Outer Banks.
Yeah.
Have you guys watched that?
Not yet. I only heard about it last night for the first time.
I only heard about it from the newspaper as I'm reading a week behind. So have you watched it?
I've watched all the episodes, yeah.
Okay, it's good.
Is it good?
Okay.
It's I don't know. I didn't really care for it, but I thought it was entertaining. It's about a bunch of teenage kids.
So you're just desperate for anything right now.
At that point, yes.
Is it Tiger King kind of good?
No, Tiger King was great. Tiger King was not good. Tiger King was great. Outer Banks was just about a bunch of teenage kids that are living on the coast, and kind of like that beach lifestyle, and they come across some treasure or something, and it just kind of evolves from there. But the only thing that I recognized, other than the Carolina mentions here and there, was they went to UNC to look up some stuff in the archives. Otherwise, that was really the only ties that I saw to North Carolina. And I was, as soon as the first time that they said that, I was like, oh, all right, this has ties to North Carolina. I gotta pay attention a little bit more. But that was really the only ties that I could catch throughout the episodes was the occasional mention of the state, and then when they went to Chapel Hill to look up stuff for the sunken treasure that they were trying to find.
Yeah, in your short time here in North Carolina, sounds like you did not get infused with the concept of the Outer Banks.
No. My experience as far as the ocean went was my sister lived in that Marine base where her husband worked.
Camp Lejeune?
Yeah, maybe. Jacksonville,
okay, yeah.
Yep, and that's as far as the coast that I went.
Okay, and Jacksonville is not right on the coast. It's it's an hour or so drive, maybe a little less.
Okay.
But yeah, so the Outer Banks is a big deal. It is mostly barrier islands that run from the Virginia border down to not as far down as Wilmington, but kind of ending about where Jacksonville would be parallel to the coast. It's a pretty big thing. It's super vacation territory down here.
Now, does that include Myrtle Beach, or Myrtle Beach is further south, right?
Myrtle Beach is South Carolina, so yeah, quite a bit further south.
Okay.
And what they're famous for is, of course, hurricanes wipe them out like crazy. They wash out the roads and make
the
life.
houses and the beach and everything else.
Yep. And if you're not an Outer Banks lover, you say things like, I don't know why we bother letting people have property out there because we have to support them so hard with infrastructure because it keeps getting washed away. But if you love vacationing out there, there's nothing like it. Awesome territory.
Now that I think about it, is Virginia Beach part of the Outer Banks?
Just a little bit north. Virginia Beach, I don't think Virginia Beach has a barrier island. I've been there, but haven't spent much time at the beach. I think the beach of Virginia Beach is at the edge of the city.
Because I've been to Virginia Beach, but I don't know if you're familiar with the restaurant Taco John's, Gary, from Illinois. So, yeah, I drove all the way up to Virginia Beach to go to Taco John's, and that was, my experience.
I would do that for a White Castle, so I understand.
Okay, so your White Castle is my Taco John's.
Yeah, because we don't have anything like that here. We had Crystal Burgers is very similar, and they had one open in Burlington for a few years, and then that closed. So the nearest one is like down in South Carolina someplace, past Charlotte.
Are you a fan of the Char Grill? That's kind of in that same category a little bit, right?
Well, I love Char Grill, and no, they're nothing like White Castle or Crystal.
No.
Brendan,
I was looking at the map. Virginia Beach is not on the barrier islands that Virginia has, but it is very close.
They got some?
There's a causeway that goes up to the barrier islands, but it's not technically part of them.
I think the north end of the Outer Banks gets into Virginia a little bit.
Yeah, back on the burger conversation, my favorite cheap burger takeout is definitely Cookout. It is extraordinarily hard to spend a lot of money there because it is so cheap and it is so good.
Yeah,
Cookout is fantastic. Yeah,
I think their burgers are similar to Char Grill.
Yeah,
but they have more other stuff. Char Grill is really bare bones. You can have any flavor milkshake there as long as it's vanilla, chocolate, or strawberry.
That's one of the things that we don't have up here is like the Char Grill or the Freddy's or the Smithfields or, Steak and Shake. We have Five Guys that just came in probably 2 years ago. Otherwise, it's McDonald's, Burger King, and Dairy Queen, and that's pretty much it.
So what's up with Five Guys? Do you think their French fries are made out of gold? So
I've never eaten at Five Guys.
You get a burger at Five Guys for like $4.50 or something like that, and they want another like $3 for an order of fries.
But of course, their bag of fries is like this big.
Okay.
It is the size of your head.
Please sell me $1 worth of fries.
You don't buy. Like, if you go and you say, okay, there's 4 people eating, you can get a burger, eat a thing of fries. You've like 4 pounds of potatoes there. Just order one fry. I don't care how many people there are, just one fry and you're fine.
So you want the fries and then a burger as the side.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you're going there by
And the
yourself,
fries are tasty. They give you way too many of them.
if you're going there by yourself, I guess you got to holler out to the restaurant. Anybody want to go in on a side of fries with me?
You know, that's not a bad idea, Gary.
Yeah, I am only outgoing on a podcast. I could never do that at a restaurant.
Well, next time I come down there, I'll walk in there and I'll ask that for you.
Okay. We've also got Burger Fi open to here, which is similar, I think, to, and they may be a little bit more upscale, but it's still counter service. I was noticing in my rare excursion out there into the world these days, I'll get to Harris Teeter maybe 3 times a week, and in the first couple times during last week, it looked like everybody was wearing a mask. Like, if somebody wasn't wearing a mask, they would stand out. Now, I consider that wearing a mask is safety theater more than real safety, but the theater seems important enough. And then I was there Friday night, and it seems like there were very few people wearing masks. It still wasn't real busy, and the store wasn't crowded. They won't let it get crowded. But I wasn't seeing very many masks. And I'm seeing on the news, on the network news primarily, stories from all over the place. Things are like feeling much more open-y than I had the feeling that they were before, in part because of the states that starting next week are going to be more open. North Carolina is not one of them. I'm not sure about Wisconsin.
We are not one of them.
Yeah, but they showed a map, a U.S. map, and 29 states are going to pretty much reopen in one form or another starting next week. You're seeing the protests going on down here, where they're not doing anything to stop the protests. We had our third version of the Reopen NC protest last Tuesday, and it wasn't thousands of people. It was hundreds. Still no social distancing and not very many masks on people. I'm sort of getting the impression that people are ready to just shove it and go back to normal, whether the state says it's okay or not.
Well, I know that one of the North Carolina counties, I think it's Gaston County, decided end of last week, that they were going to buck the trend and say, we don't care what the governor says. We are reopening businesses at 5 o'clock today. I didn't follow that thread and see if they actually did it or not, but they're one of the more populous counties. I think they're primarily a bedroom community for Charlotte and Mecklenburg at this point.
Yeah.
In terms of where their population goes. But
which means that they've got thousands of people going back and forth to Charlotte, so they're not an island.
Yeah. But I mean, I've only been to the grocery store literally once since this whole thing started. And
yeah, you're our safety protocol guy, our safety officer for the podcast.
How do you get your food?
We do a lot of online pickup. And so we order online, we drive through the pickup thing.
Okay.
My mother-in-law lives with us, and she's in the high-risk population, so we don't want to chance anything on that.
Yeah.
That's not cool. So we have been, and it's very hit or miss. You order stuff, and sometimes you just don't get it. So your meal plan has to adapt because I will say that the pickup windows are getting closer now. So it used to be you'd place an order today, you can have it next Thursday. And now as you place the order today, you can have it tomorrow morning. So that system is either getting more efficient or people are using it less. So the windows are more open for me. But the one time that I've been to the grocery store, which was last week, almost everybody was wearing masks, and I was wearing gloves, and I stood up for that part of it. But it was definitely people being distant, except for the teenagers hanging out by Starbucks, who were obviously not related considering how they were standing next to each other. But
damn kids.
They're basically invincible, right? So
I was. So one of the things that makes me feel better about things is there's this website that the NC DHHS has got, where you can look at things by zip code, and if you're looking at the video, looking at my zip code 27513. 25 cases have, I'm not sure what they're considering a case. Is it, are they laboratory confirmed cases? Are they presumed positive cases by symptoms reported through doctors. I don't know how they're coming up with a number of cases. We know that number is low, and it could be low by a factor of 10 because they're not doing enough testing. And that factor of 10 is just another wild-ass guess. So instead of 25 cases, it could be 250, it could be 500. But considering that we got 100,000 people, 150,000 people in the town, well, in the zip code, we probably have 50 or 60,000 people. That's not a scary number of cases. The 27511, the other zip code in town,
That's where I am.
18 cases, and no deaths in either one.
What is Raleigh at?
Some of the Raleigh zip codes, the zip code for downtown, 27605, 4 cases. Northwest side, 27607, 13 cases, no deaths. Southwest side, 27606, 31 cases, no deaths. Worst.
There's like 50 cases just there in Raleigh.
Yeah, the worst territory, 27610, which is southeast and going into Johnston County. Mm-hmm. And I think this is one of those nursing home things, 193 cases and 3 deaths.
Jeez.
So, I mean, those numbers, they don't scare me. Do they give you any pause to say, wait a minute, why are we going through all this?
What it tells me is that we have a handle on the unknown. There was a while that every week there was, new panicking news about what new wrinkle, what new spread vector, what new heart disease, whatever was causing. And that seems to be dropping off, that now we generally just have more cases. So the unexpected is going away. So it makes me think, okay, we're doing a good job containing it, and we should keep on containing it until we find, effective cure.
For me personally, I'm not worried about it because I am a little bit younger and I am a little bit more healthy than, a lot of the people that are older than me.
Me?
Yeah, well, I'm not going to say anything.
70 years old, asthma, cancer survivor. I got a lot of strikes against me here.
That's right. Congratulations, by the way. I saw that that happened since I left. So congratulations, man.
Yeah. It's kind of. It seems like a long time ago, just earlier this year.
But yeah, I mean, for me, I'm not really worried about it. Even if I do get it, which, like I said earlier, I think is going to happen. It's just a matter of time that I'll be able to bounce back just fine. But that doesn't stop me from preventing it. But at the same time, it's like. For the world, I think that a lot of things should be done a little bit differently, but one person can't change everything.
If we could see this stuff the way we can see the yellow pollen, I think we'd all really have a much better feel for what's going. Because if you go out there now, and you walk around, you go into the grocery store, which is one of the few places that's actually open. And you look around at people and everything's taking the precautions, but you say, I don't have a visceral feel for the existence of this. Now, maybe if I knew somebody personally that had it, if I knew somebody personally that died from it, I'm 2 steps away from someone dying. A friend had a friend who died. I've talked to almost nobody who has had it, and the closest I've come is talking to some people that had a test, that finally got a test and could describe the test that they went through. Otherwise,
it doesn't really hit home for you.
Yeah, it's not feeling real, and yet I'm in a highly susceptible category for complications, and so that's what drives me to not go out and play in traffic.
How often do you go out?
2-3 times a week, I'm out every day, either exercising, feeding feral cats, doing things that have no contact with other people. And then in terms of going to the store, once a week I've gone to the local Burger King and gotten drive-through, and I can see your side of things just through the little window. I'll pick up carry out from a couple of local would-be dine-in restaurants, fast casual or just plain old restaurants, a couple times a week, and I'll get to the Harris Teeter maybe twice a week. And that's my excursion out into the world.
Yeah, that's still a lot. Like, I told my grandparents that live here, I was like, listen, if you guys need groceries, I'll grab them for you, and I'm going to buy you Lysol wipes and spray, and you got to spray everything that comes into your house. Like, I'm not coming into your house whatsoever, and everything that I bring is going to be just dropped in your garage, and you guys got to spray it. So, I mean, to me, that's what you're doing is a lot of,
so I'm taking big risks.
Potential. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of potential, ways to catch that COVID, but...
Yeah, well, one of the things we don't know, but I was hearing somebody talk about this on a show earlier, is the contact pickup. There's no way to know how many people who caught it got it through touching something versus something aerosolized. But the folks that I was hearing talk about it said that, well, yes, it can live on surfaces, and someone who is infected touches something. First of all, it's not living on their hands unless they have had contact with their, the more liquid parts of their body, touching their nose, their eyes, their mouth. That's where it's going to get onto their hands and then onto something else. And then you touch that something else and then you bring it in. It is not impossible. It's far from impossible. It's very possible, but it is way less likely than somebody sneezes and in the 10 or 15 feet around you, forget the 6 feet. If someone sneezes, it's 10, 15, 20 feet around them that is aerosolized and will hang there for a while. And you walk through that.
And then you breathe it in and you got it.
Yeah. No one's got any metrics on which one seems to be, in reality, more likely for people to catch it. But as it is described, it's going to be a whole lot more likely to get it from someone's aerosolized infection, breathing or sneezing or coughing.
Yeah, I work from home and I have for the last number of years. And so the riskiest thing I really do is I go for a daily run. And I run in the middle of the road and I try to run away from people. But, I'm out in the world. And
literally running away from people.
Well, yeah. And I've been to the grocery store once in the last 7 weeks. And working from home allows me the luxury of doing that. But one of the boss or the owner of the last company I worked for, he's an avid mountain biker. He's really healthy. I think he's early 50s. I don't know exactly how old he is. He got it. And 2 weeks later, he was still having trouble breathing regularly.
Yeah.
And he was like a healthy guy. And it laid him out completely. I
know what a flu will do to me because it'll take my asthma to the roof. And I'll be thinking things like, well, I know how I'm going to die. It will be choking for my last breath. And this would be worse.
The flu is awful.
That's a horrible thing to say. Thinking about that.
And I've had cancer.
Yeah.
But, I spent with the cancer, I spent like a week before they could tell me what stage it was. Then I learned it was stage 1. And that's not like, well, it's nothing, but it's far more survivable. But I didn't know that it was stage 1 for the first week from the original diagnosis to the details. So that's the time when I stared the Grim Reaper in the eye for a week, and you learn some things about yourself. And one of the things I learned was, it was like, I don't care. If it's my time, it's my time. I'm not going to worry about that. But this is something I can do something about. That was not something I could not do something about. So
yeah,
apparently I'm not doing enough. But I'm also not going to go crowd into my favorite restaurant as soon as they open.
Okay, good.
I'll give that a little time. And I guess what they keep telling us is any idea that, sometime in June, life is going to go back to normal. Restaurants will be open. Ballparks will be full. That's also not going to happen. Unless people force it.
Like, I'm not... They've canceled in-person school for both my wife, who's an undergraduate, and my children, who are in elementary school, until the fall. But I'm very skeptical, we'll say, that they're going to have in-person school in August for anybody. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm sure they're making plans for it not to be the case.
Yeah.
So speaking of sports, Bobby, you are a native sports fan here, or our biggest sports fan. I am absolutely not a sports fan. I watch a little bit now and then. Brendan, I get the impression you're not a big-time sports guy.
It's not my thing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Bobby, tell us how a sports-free America is going.
Sucks. I mean, I'll be honest. The thing that I look forward to on Sundays now is this Michael Jordan documentary that's on ESPN every night, or on Sunday nights.
Is it the same documentary every time?
No, they release 2 episodes about. I'm gonna not try to get too excited here, just because this is the only sports thing that I get to look forward to every week. But it's about the prime years of Michael Jordan being on the Chicago Bulls, and it spans 6-ish, 7-ish, if you want to count his college years, maybe 7 to 8-ish years. And it's 2 episodes every Sunday night on ESPN. And so the first 2 episodes were released 2 weeks ago, and that was just kind of like a whole backstory of Michael Jordan. Who is he? What did he do? And then the last 2 episodes last week was all about Dennis Rodman, which I don't know if you guys know. I mean, Dennis Rodman was a pretty big figure. I remember him well.
He was a very interesting public figure.
So, and you know, that maybe brings in the non-sports fans in to watch it a little bit, because Dennis Rodman was such a larger-than-life basketball player. I mean,
the wedding dress, all that craziness, yeah.
Exactly.
Is he the guy that goes to North Korea?
He is our North Korean ambassador, yes. So the last 2 episodes last week were all about him, and then tonight I don't know exactly who it's all about or what it's about, but it's a 10-part documentary series, and it's on every Sunday night until it finishes. And episode 5 and 6 are tonight. So that's what I look forward to on Sundays now. I have watched every single Packers post-game series on replay through YouTube
from
over the last 3 weeks.
Games that happened long before you were born.
Yep. Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, I've watched them all.
Now, just because they happened before you were born, does that make them less or more interesting?
More interesting, because you got John Madden calling the plays, you got Brett Favre out there. I mean, all of these people that you hear about, you finally get to watch. And this is a reason.
You know, or you could know what the score was, who won, but who cares? That's not what you're watching for.
No, I'm watching the game, and Sundays are for football. I don't know what your guys' Sundays are for. I mean, they must be pointless because they're for football for me.
Yeah. Westworld season 3 final episode tonight. Just saying.
Oh.
Westworld's an amazing show.
What is that on, like Netflix or Hulu or something?
HBO, unfortunately.
Oh.
So good.
I'm one of those people that have never watched Game of Thrones or, any of that stuff.
Yeah, but you watched
Westworld kind of in that.
Game of Thrones was way oversold. It was okay. Even before the awful ending of the last season, it was just okay. The first season of Westworld is sublime. It is amazingly well written, and I highly recommend getting a copy and watching at least season 1. It's only 10 or 11 episodes.
What is it all about?
It's better to let you find out if you don't know.
Is it like a sci-fi, or is it like a comedy, or what?
It's a sci-fi drama.
Okay.
It's HBO, so the first season, especially the first season, was a little heavy on the nudity, but it's really good.
Nothing wrong with that.
Really, really well done.
I might have to check that out. I love the Chernobyl series that they had on HBO. That was a great series.
That was well done. It was. I don't do gore very well, and there's a bit much in that for me.
Yeah, the last couple episodes were a little much.
It's that kind of television that's well written and well shot and thought through that I really enjoy. And Westworld. Anyway, sorry. We're talking about sports.
I've heard a lot about Westworld. I wanted to mention, because I forgot to bring this up when we were talking about it, that Outer Banks series was not shot in North Carolina. It was shot in Charleston. And the reason, very political reason, is because Netflix and the production company says North Carolina still has too much vestige of the old HB2, prohibition of transgendered people using public bathrooms, except for the ones of their birth gender identity. I get lost in the nomenclature of this. I mean, I'm very, very much pro transgender people and being able to do what they need to do, and understanding gender and sex are not the same thing, and what your plumbing is not what your brain is. All that stuff, I'm very, very much in that camp. I just have not gotten myself in all the language yet.
Yeah, the language is very tricky to navigate, but what really pisses me off about HB2 is it, on the whole, was not about people using bathrooms.
What is HB2?
There was a House bill passed in North Carolina a couple of years ago that basically said you had to use the restroom assigned to your birth gender, regardless of anything else. And the second clause of it was, we're reducing the statute of limitations for suing your employer for workplace injury from 5 years to 3 months.
What?
Oops. Yeah.
That part didn't get that much play.
So when they repealed HB2, they repealed the first part of it. And not the second part. Yeah.
So those two things that are completely not relevant are together?
Well, they do that a lot.
And they did it because they knew that the first one was going to get a lot of attention, and hopefully they could keep it. But if they couldn't, it would get struck down, and the other one would get ignored because it wasn't worth the media cycles. And that's exactly what happened. It really makes me angry. That not only are they going to treat a bunch of people who are already treated badly by society even worse, they're going to use it to also further reduce people's ability to, workman's comp and whatever.
And that, Bobby, is why you don't pay any attention to politics, because that goes on all the time, and it would drive you crazy.
It's awful.
Wait. So this one thing that either is passed or not passed in Congress or whatever it is, that has multiple different things in it that doesn't relate in any way, shape, or form to each other. It's either yes or no.
Mm-hmm. Like the spending bills that they pass at the national level, they're full of all kinds of things that are not spending related. But
it's still a part of the same core thing that they're trying to pass.
Yeah, here's a 1,200-page bill that has the budget in it, and it has provisions about abortion, and it has provisions about this and that and the other thing, because they just pack it full of all kinds of other.
And they'll put in things that they think would not be voted positively on their own merits, because they've attached it to this bill that becomes a must-pass bill for its core element. And so these other attachments or amendments ride along because the people that are in favor of whatever the core is say, well, we gotta pass that. And so we don't like this other stuff that's been attached to it, but we're going to live with it. That's just literally politics.
Yeah, so the state of California, the state of Washington, the state of New York banned their public employees from going to anything in North Carolina, going to anything funded by North Carolina. There was a huge prohibition against basically economically interacting with North Carolina. And one of the things that Netflix said, we're not going to be filming shows that we were planning on filming in North Carolina there anymore because it's, this isn't cool.
So who owns Netflix? Is that Disney?
No, Netflix is totally independent.
Yeah, they're their own thing.
And they said that, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Silicon Valley got really, really pissed off about this.
North Carolina lost a lot of business, including a lot of sports.
Mm-hmm.
The legislature did a sort of repeal of HB2, but they left a lot of things up to individual counties and cities that the progressive political side said, well, they didn't really repeal it. They didn't repeal it enough, and we're not really happy with it. We're not satisfied. But they went far enough that most big businesses were satisfied and brought things back to North Carolina, some tournaments and company headquarters that were thinking about relocating here. They decided that they would. But Netflix,
like the NBA pulled an All-Star game.
Yeah.
A bunch of other things got relocated and pulled out of North Carolina because of this. And yeah, Netflix said no.
yeah, some entertainment, especially, but some tech has said, no, you didn't go far enough. You did not really repeal this completely, and so we're still staying away. As far as total business is concerned, probably has not had a big impact at this point. But the legislature, the Republican legislature here, was never a big fan of the movie industry coming into Wilmington the way they did. They pulled a lot of corporate subsidies out of North Carolina. Then they put a lot back in, but they left the entertainment industry out. So they basically said, we don't want them Hollywood queers coming into Wilmington. This is North Carolina. So that's my take on it. And so I'm watching Bobby's face here. For those of you that can't see it, so we'll push the explicit button, because I think that what's on your mind is pretty much the words "oh fuck."
I don't understand any of it, to be honest with you. Like, I don't get it.
It doesn't make any sense to reasonable and rational people on either side of the political divide. This is a game that politicians play because politicians are, well, they're special.
Yeah.
Well, like, what I can relate to is, like, obviously Michael Jordan is from North Carolina. He went to college in North Carolina, and he owns the most popular shoe brand of all time, which is located in North Carolina. And I mean, that's kind of what I keep coming back to. Like, I don't know. I'm just trying to kind of connect all the buttons here, or all the dots, and
he also went to UNC,
sense.
And the Republicans hate UNC because UNC has a school of journalism, and they're not a huge fan of journalism.
Yeah, although they managed to pack the administration of UNC with more Republican-friendly people.
Yeah, it's a mess. Everything is awful in that sense, which is unfortunate. But gentlemen, it is 5:30 here, local time, and I need to get on to making dinner for the kids and all that.
We've hit our 90-minute point, and we've done about 20% of what was in the list.
Yeah, that's about right.
As usual, but it's a good show. Bobby, you had some great... the stuff on the inside of learning what's going on in the fast food business is fascinating.
Yeah.
So thank you for that contribution.
Yeah.
It was good to meet you, even if virtually across the internet.
Which is the way we all have to meet these days anyway. So
I was looking at plane tickets a couple weeks ago. It was only $100 to fly round trip, and now it's gone up to about $200. So I'm going to make my way down there again here pretty quick.
There's a one of those reopen things that I was thinking about. You know, we're pushing toward. You can tell if the price of moving around is starting to go back up, people are going to start moving around.
Yep.
So, all right then. Let's see. Brendan Diesendorf is a sewist.
Yeah.
Also, is it your podcast, or is it just a total group effort?
Nominally, it's mine. It was my idea originally, and I recruited some of my friends onto it. So I call myself the host, but they're also hosts. I don't really know how to divide that one out.
It's tough.
But yeah, the Practical Operations podcast. We do Linux and Unix operations work.
At operations.fm.
Mm-hmm.
Did you try to get .com? That's a way too common a word for a .com.
We did not try to get .com.
Yeah, I'm sure that's gone to something else long ago. Have you?
Yeah.
I mean, have you looked it up? Have you seen?
Never even tried.
.fm is hard.
It was available when we wanted it.
Okay, people find you well enough, I guess. And Bobby McRaven, former host of the Sport Karate podcast, website, television program, YouTube Spectacular. Are you doing any of it just as a sport anymore at all?
I am disconnecting myself from martial arts 100%.
And you're letting your body go to pot?
Yep. I live back in Wisconsin. It's all about the cheese curds and the beer.
Cheese, beer, and snow, right?
Yeah, that's our 8 months out of the year, I guess.
All right. I am Gary Pierce. I'm an 8-ball magician. That's what I'm calling myself in my title. And this has been episode 87, Magic. Yeah, I think that magical thinking is probably what it's all about in terms of reopening. May 3rd, 2020 for the Triangle Talk Show. Thank you guys for being here. And we'll do the traditional, you remember how we close the show, Bobby?
Once we get going, I think I'll remember.
Oh, yeah, it'll be easy. Now, we got 3 people. We'll give you the last word. Brendan, you get the middle word. I'll start the first word. Over. Brendan, it's your turn. Over.
And?
Over. Okay.
And?
Out.
Yay. You got it. I'm pushing the off buttons for the online Facebook and YouTube. I got to hang out here and waste a little time because otherwise it clips off the thing. So now as I push the off button, you'll wonder if you're on